Hopefully I am live. If I am, yay. And in which case, hello Tiger Lily and the Lovebirds. Welcome to a PMQ stream. It'll be one of the last times Theresa May is involved in this as Prime Minister. I don't know if she intends to go to the back benches or resign as an MP from Maidenhead. I'm not sure. But it will be very interesting to see what happens. Hello, Ataka Gamajudis and Peter. Hope you're both well. I'm starting early. I'm bored, okay? I did all I needed to do. This week's PMQs isn't... it wasn't as interesting as previously. It was interesting, but it wasn't on Brexit, so I guess it was more interesting, actually. Hello, horny hippos. Hello, Triple H, let's call you that. There are a number of really good questions worth addressing, and I have bothered to write some stuff down for it. It should be interesting to see how the Prime Minister handles this. And I know before Serene mentions this, I know about the vote that was happening in Parliament. Please don't mention it, because I'm going to do a video on it tomorrow. Thank you. Hello, Discanar and Living the Dream. So yeah, let's dive into this, because it should be interesting, to say the least. Volume should be there, that's fine.
Questions to the Prime Minister. Closed question, Mr. Michael Fabricant.
I do want to say before we start, I have no idea why this question had to be a closed question. Based on the answer you get from the Prime Minister, it seems utterly redundant. Especially as they're Mr. Fabricant, a guy who looks like he wears a bright blonde wig. You'll understand if you get a closer look of him later. Gets to ask a second question anyway.
Question number one, sir.
The Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And before I answer my honourable friend's question, Friday marks 2 years since the devastating Grenfell Tower fire. The survivors and bereaved, many of whom lost everything, have endured so much with such dignity. Our highest priority has been to ensure the survivors receive the support they need, and we must learn all we can to make sure no one ever has to go through their experience again. Mr. Speaker, this week is also Carers Week. This gives all of us the opportunity to pay tribute to the enormous contribution that paid and unpaid carers make to our society.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk crap about the Grenfell thing. Bit of a shame that they haven't been as active as they should have been dealing with other buildings, but past that, I'm not going to say much. Carers Week is a rather interesting one because, well, my mum used to work in it, my sisters used to work in it, and one thing I learnt from watching was it is a overworked and underpaid sector. Resources for it are quite finite, to the point where they are, well, treated quite poorly. Then again, there are also employees who abuse their position of privilege. So it's unfortunately being tainted by a rather select few who think they're better. Hello, Vent, hello, by the way.
Now, turning to my honourable friend's question, I met the Mayor during my visit to the King's Norton headquarters of the ADI Group. This was an excellent opportunity to see a successful West Midlands company doing its part to give young people a career. And yesterday's job figures show that not only has employment risen by over 300,000 in the West Midlands since 2010, this is something to be celebrated. Can I also celebrate my honourable friend's birthday today? And that of the Mayor of the West Midlands, who I believe had a birthday yesterday.
Michael Fabricant. May I associate myself with my right honourable friend's earlier comments, if not the birthday greetings, for which I thank her.
Seriously. When someone in the Serene asks, trying to mimic Boris, no. Because Boris's hair is real. That does not look real.
The West Midlands was the very first region in the country to launch its industrial strategy. And I think it's the best regional industrial strategy. Look, as this strategy is a shared endeavour between the region and the government, what further help can she give and the government give to realise its full potential?
Well, can I say, my honourable friend is absolutely right to highlight the government's industrial strategy and to recognise the shared work that goes into those industrial strategies between government and the region and business. And we will be investing £20 million towards this region becoming the UK's first future mobility zone. That will be introducing new technologies to encourage more seamless and efficient journeys, investing up to £50 million to put the region at the forefront of 5G developments as a new innovative home to the UK's first multi-city 5G testbed, and £332 million from the government's Transforming Cities Fund to extend the city region's metro system. It's this shared vision for inclusive growth that shows how we can reach our potential and do so in a way that benefits all communities.
Before he does that, the industrial strategy thing has been panned a few times by the Labour benchers because they don't believe it actually benefits all communities, something which the Conservatives do argue against. Hello, Globus Hystericus. Hope you are well. May's wearing her anal beads and the same suit she wore during PMQs following Parliament finding the government in contempt. Well, she'd have to recycle her outfits. I don't think she's wealthy enough to be able to buy a new suit every week. Or new shoulders. Inclusive growth is an oxymoron. Yeah. Don't tell them that, though. Prepare for additional virtue. I do apologise.
Mr. Speaker, today would have been the 90th birthday of Anne Frank had she survived but died in the Nazi Bergen-Belsen concentration camp in 1945. In her diary, she wrote many things, but one of them that I think really does apply to all of us at all times is human greatness does not lie in wealth or power, but in character and goodness. And I think we should remember her life and all that she's inspired in so many others ever since the Second World War. Later this week, I'll be joining those families and survivors commemorating the second anniversary of the Grenfell fire, in which dozens of people died. As Sunday's fire in the flats in Barking reminds us, there is still much more to do to ensure that people are safe in their homes in all parts of this country. As is traditional, Mr. Speaker, I'm sure the whole House will join me in welcoming the new member for Peterborough, my honourable friend who's sitting behind me today.
You know, that person who accidentally, quotes, accidentally liked an anti-Zionist post. Because she didn't read the finer print, everyone. Oops.
The country, Mr. Speaker, is in crisis over Brexit. Manufacturing is in crisis.
Not really in crisis, the country. The country's doing really well. In fact, economic growth, employment are doing really well. So you're lying a little bit. And horny hippos, or Triple H, sorry. I didn't know that. But that's pretty cool.
Crisis. The Prime Minister's government has brought us to this point. And now the Conservative Party is once again in the process of foisting a new Prime Minister on the country.
He's about to mention a general election, so I'm going to point this out now because this is quite obvious. Okay, in what universe is what he's about to suggest better when at the same time that would be happening, a leadership campaign will happen? I'm going to let him say what he wants here.
Without the country having a say through a general election.
Right, so he thinks when there's now a leadership change in the Tory party, there should be a new general election. Now, this is built on a false premise. He knows government term times are set. We don't elect the leader of the party, we elect the party. The Conservatives won the last general election. Therefore, they are well within their rights to hold on to that seat of power until 2022. Because that is when the next general election should be called. Unless someone gets cocky again, which I'm hoping not, honestly. But then again, this guy, the guy we're looking at right now, next to two token ladies is basically built to lose. He couldn't beat May, so what makes him think he could beat anyone else? So he wants a general election while Conservatives are fighting a leadership campaign, meaning that there will be no leader or face of the Conservative Party, and they won't be able to campaign. He is, by definition, hello Jeff Jones, a very sore loser who is showing himself utterly incapable of accepting defeat. He is the equivalent to a Ramona, but the sore loser from 2017 who still can't accept he has yet to actually have a definitive win. Which is just tragic at this point.
This Prime Minister created the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy in July 2016. Has the Prime Minister actually delivered an industrial strategy since then?
Okay, what he's just done... Hello Karma, hello Stuart. What he has just done is show that he did not listen to what Michael Fabricant said just before the Prime Minister first stood up, actually. Just before Corbyn stood up, sorry. And this look, I think I've paused it at the absolutely correct moment. Because this means he's now looking at Michael Fabricant. Because Michael Fabricant is holding the industrial strategy in his hands. Meaning he didn't pay attention, which is remarkably naive of him. But it also further proves the point that he doesn't listen. He only abides with what is written in front of him by the sycophants who then say, "Go on, Jeremy. Go on, Jeremy." I'm waiting for him one day to stand up and just go, "Fucking lamp the cunt, work the ribs, work the fucking ribs." But I doubt we'll ever get that.
Can I first of all echo the comments of the Right Honourable Gentleman in recognising what would have been the 90th birthday of Anne Frank. Nobody can have read the testimony of Anne Frank in her diary without being deeply moved and deeply shocked by what she had to live through. And that is, it seems to me, another reason why everybody across this House and across our society should do everything we can in the fight against anti-Semitism. Can I also take, this is my first opportunity to welcome the new Honourable Member for Peterborough to her seat in this chamber. The Right Honourable Gentleman mentioned the Business Department and Industrial Strategy. Well, it's quite obvious he'd written his question before he heard the answer to the question from my honourable friend, the member for Lichfield, which of course referred not only to our national industrial strategy, but also to our regional industrial strategies, which are making a real difference in creating the record levels of employment that we see in this country.
So, the claim of record levels of employment is actually correct. It is currently at a record level of 76.1%. And this is derived from the Office of National Statistics. I should probably go and give it to you guys so you can have a look at it. I'll pull the chat up. Do I have a wrench on this channel? Let's say I do. There you go. Office National Statistics for employment rate aged 16 to 64, which is seasonally adjusted. It's quite accurate, so that... Yeah, there is a thing I noticed on Twitter for this. It was called #FactBomb. The way it worked, I don't know if the word bomb should ever be used really, because people get very sensitive around it. But it's the concept that during PMQs, people are renowned for answering by dropping a bunch of bombs. Those are typically considered facts by them, proven otherwise by many others. There is a certain level of amusement that comes with acknowledging Lisa Forbes just after mentioning anti-Semitism, considering what Lisa Forbes liked. And to everyone that did smash the like button, thank you very much. I did notice. Thank you, Serene, for telling me that everyone smashed it. Numbers of Fudge somehow, Moisty Live, Wrench Me Moist One. I wish I could, but I'm on the Omegon account, so I can't. I'd have to actually switch accounts. It would take a while. I can't be bothered.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the answer she gave has a sort of unreality about it all, really. Since... let me explain. I'm trying to help you. If the members opposite could contain their excitement for a moment, I just thought I'd remind them that since 2016, when the Bays Department was set up, the labour force survey shows that there are 147,000 fewer people working in manufacturing in Britain.
Right. Okay, we should definitely address this. This concept that there being less people in manufacturing is a bad thing. Let's all think about this. The employment market changes. Look at how the employment market how manufacturing especially has altered. It used to be that more people worked in manufacturing, but then were replaced by robots. And then obviously those same engineers were then either trained as a tech for those machines, or they were laid off. You adapt and you improve. Look how many people are employed by Amazon working in warehouses. Look how many people work in fresh food factories. You're going to be hard-pressed to replace them, to be honest. There are a lot less factories. And yes, 0-hour contracts. Oh, dear God. Oh, God. Oh, 0-hour contracts are the bane of everyone's existence, and I don't like them. I wish Sean... Oh, and hello to UK Skin and Sean. Sandwich Wench Strike. I have yet to receive any Sandwich Wench videos. It's been a while. It's been quite a drought. But this idea that there being less jobs in manufacturing is a bad thing, considering what markets we are currently excelling in, is a bit of a false argument. We don't excel just by being in one market. We have the potential to be more in anything else. And 0-hour contracts, karma, are a thing because they were as a means of governments relaxing employment law so that companies could then hire additional people without giving them the same workers' rights or guaranteed hours. In my last proper job, which I had from 2010 to 2012, I had a 0-hour contract, but I worked 40 hours a week. Was it 50? Doesn't matter. I worked a lot of hours. I always did overtime. I always went in early, stayed late. I was a good engineer, okay? And when I actually pulled up my resume and my reference I got from them when I left, because of all the hard work I put in. What made me laugh the most was, all it did, hello Chaos Media, it recognised the date I started and the date I left, and then refused to acknowledge what I did. It basically, the contract, 0-hour contract, is used as a means to fluff up a bunch of employment stats to make it look more impressive. 0-hour contracts, though, are dying. Hello, Count Dibula. They are dying because companies are now having to give workers rights. Not just holiday, the right to request certain privileges I can't remember. And they have to be paid the same as someone who has a full-time contract. Hello, Carlos. I hope you're well. I'm not a big fan of 0-hour contracts, in truth. I think they were a terrible idea, but I understood why they existed. And I will admit, if I hadn't gotten the job I had back then, I could have been unemployed for a lot longer. So to an extent, I have to accept that it worked for me at the time.
Apprenticeship starts are down by 25%.
Yeah, but... Oh, sorry. Tiger Lily, thank you very much for the donation for our Lord and Saviour Cthulhu. Very much appreciated. The argument you're now making about apprenticeship starts, again, not necessarily a bad thing. Just saying, it depends on which... No. I'm not going to be dragged into that just yet.
And manufacturing output fell by 3.9% in March and April this year.
Okay, so this is true, but it's actually quite odd. It's a very broad statement to make. It's not localized. If you include all manufacturing sectors, all of them, and put them together, yes, then you've got 3.9%. Otherwise, if you go to specific manufacturing industries, you notice quite a number of them aren't down. Those that have suffered recently would probably be, British Steel, since they went into administration. So it's a very, very nebulous thing to say.
The largest fall for 2 decades. In
No.
the last year, Jaguar Land Rover, Honda, Vauxhall, Ford and Nissan have all announced UK job losses. Does the Prime...
Yeah, because the sales were down. They didn't all do... Although I would say some of them did it because of Brexit. Some did do it because of that, and they wanted to start shifting their factories to countries within the EU to avoid tariffs. You're again being a bit disingenuous here, Jeremy.
Minister think her Department for Industrial Strategy has been good for that industry?
The industry has to adapt. That's what I say to that. This is a terrible little way of attacking the strategy as a whole, something he doesn't support. I'm sure he would close it down if he had the choice, rather than try and improve upon it. British Steel is screwed, and I know it's a mess. But with this, the car industry especially, a number of those companies during the referendum and after it said they were going to leave. Okay, leave then. That'll ruin the statistics, won't it? I'm not going to try and explain that one. I'm not going to try and justify it. But you're not making some grand point here by tearing it down when this current strategy is actually working. To an extent. But as with all new things, they don't work. They have to take time. Time, trial, error, and you have to keep learning. Something which I don't think you get. Look, I've chosen the worst possible pause face. It's such a busybody expression. Such a condescending look.
Say to the right honourable gentleman that I think this reveals an awful lot about him and the Labour Party's approach to these issues. The point of the industrial strategy is to make sure that we have the economy with the jobs of the future. And that is why it is good to see that in that industrial strategy we have key challenges such as artificial intelligence and data, which will underpin the work we're doing in clean growth, in mobility, in the health service, as well as so much more. On Monday I was pleased to attend London Tech Week, to speak at London Tech Week, to do a round table with tech businesses in this country, to welcome the tech unicorns developed in London, the 5 tech unicorns developed in Manchester, and to welcome the over £1 billion of investment in the tech sector in this country that was announced at that time.
Do you remember when I earlier said that people had to adapt? Yeah, this is where that adapting comes into it. Because some of those people will undoubtedly not get same jobs ever again unless they leave the country to places where those jobs are still relevant. People are trained and then able. Hello, Raymond. They adapt to different sectors that there is opportunity. Artificial intelligence, now that's interesting. And I'm going to take this out of context because I can. Unicorns? Sign me up.
We are looking to the jobs of the future. That's where the high-skilled, high-paid jobs are, and that's what this government is delivering.
And Keith, hello Keith Ferris, hope you're... or Ferris? Keith, hope you're well. It is astonishing that in this context, Labour are pushing to keep those old sectors, antiquated ones I might add. Cars... I mean, okay, so there are a lot of cars. But we're trying to get to a point where cars and emissions are down to 0. You're not going to do that with the cars being made currently by the companies that are currently operating in this country, with the systems that they would use. Combustion engines are going to go the way of the dinosaur at some point. Therefore, they would have to adapt. Unless you force it, it's not going to happen. Therefore, these ideas under the current regional strategy... I can't remember the name of it again. Industrial strategy is a good idea because it's thinking ahead for once. And £1 billion investment, that's great. It shows potential. Ah, troglodyte's such a good word, though.
Mr. Speaker, last week Ford announced it would end production at its Bridgend plant. UK car production has been virtually cut in half in the last 11 consecutive months. Ford has also said that a no-deal Brexit would put a further 6,000 UK jobs at risk.
So, the country still voted leave. Got to deliver on that. Doesn't matter if those jobs are at risk. If you're that much of a pussy, you're refusing to do business because you're scared of no deal, or because of Brexit. Do you think we're going to listen to a company? No. The government should not be subservient to businesses. Yes, they are to an extent. All governments are. But they shouldn't be. And this definitely shouldn't be used as some kind of bargaining chip. Ooh, 6,000 people's jobs. Okay, well, 17.4 million people are outside and they're not very happy that we're stopping Brexit because of you guys, wanting to keep your jobs. Because Ford are cowards.
With thousands more at risk in the supply chain, Nissan, Toyota, BMW and JLR have all said similar. Will the Prime Minister take this opportunity to reiterate her government's assessment that a no-deal Brexit would be disastrous for Britain? I think some of her colleagues behind her and alongside her need reminding of that.
Why? In a few weeks' time she won't be Prime Minister, so what she thinks is utterly irrelevant. Many don't support the idea of no deal. Even those campaigning aren't pushing for it. They're just willing to say, if a deal can't be agreed upon, a deal that everyone likes, which is unlikely, then no deal has to happen because you don't get a damn choice nor legal default.
Can I say, first of all, to the right honourable gentleman, obviously the issue of the announcement by Ford is very worrying and it's an uncertain time for workers and their families in Bridgend. Ford have committed to supporting employees throughout the consultation process and beyond, including with redeployment opportunities to other Ford sites in the UK. But my right honourable friend, the Business Secretary, and my right honourable friend, the Welsh Secretary, have spoken to Ford, and we're working closely with them, with the Welsh Government. I spoke to the First Minister of Wales, spoke to me as well on these issues, and working with local stakeholders and trade union representatives to ensure that those skilled and valued workers are supported throughout this process. The right honourable gentleman then goes on to talk about no deal and his concerns about a no deal situation. Can I just say it would come a little bit more sincerely from him if he hadn't gone through the lobbies regularly and consistently voting to increase the chances of no deal by voting against the deal.
The Prime Minister may not have noticed, but her deal was rejected 3 times by Parliament.
Yeah, but so is every option you put forward. And if I remember correctly, as of today, one of them 3 times as well. Congratulations. You are a 3-time loser. In fact, I'd argue you're closer to 5-time. You know what that means? That's right. You can do a Corbyn Spinneroonie.
And, Mr. Speaker, another industry failed by the UK government is that of UK steel. Why didn't the government agree a deal to support our steel industry?
The government did. This is a false claim. I did just notice something rather interesting. That is, Corbyn is absolutely insulated by the majority of the women on his side of the benches. Like, they literally form a bubble around him. Does he need... Are they carers? Hello, GH. Hope you're well. I think the argument about British Steel is a bad one, because the government did offer to help them out of administration, and they rejected it. So they worked with them, and they failed it.
Can I just say to the right honourable gentleman, I think the point he makes is exactly the point that I was making, which is the fact that, had the right honourable gentleman really believed that we should be leaving the European Union and doing it with a deal, then he would have voted for the deal. We could have left the European Union and actually we could be on to that brighter future already. We did work with British Steel. We worked with its owner, Greybull Capital, and lenders to explore all the potential options to secure a solution for British Steel. And as shown through the ETS agreement that the government put in place, we were willing to act. We continue to work with the official receiver and with the British Steel support group, that's management, trade unions, and with companies in the supply chain and local communities, to pursue every possibility, every possible step to secure the future of the valuable operations in sites at Scunthorpe, at Skinning Grove and on Teesside. And I myself will be meeting a group of members of Parliament from the region whose constituencies are affected later today.
Hello, Debs Red, and to those asking what is a Corbyn spinneroonie, it is breakdancing.
Jeremy Corbyn!
Well, since the government did nothing to protect the steel industry in Redcar, I hope they're going to do a bit better on Scunthorpe, where 5,000 jobs are at risk.
Just going to say this now. I didn't even realise there were 5,000 people in Scunthorpe.
The Bay Select Committee raises questions about whether the government actually entered into the negotiations in good faith.
Ooh, you sure you want to be mentioning that in Parliament? That's very tinfoil hatty, don't you all think?
Another sector...
And also, yes, UK Skin, it is not the job of the UK government to prop up an Indian company. Now, we have had to bail out and do regularly bail out rail companies. That includes also those who own parts of the NHS that aren't public anymore because of what we had to do to deal with austerity. We've had to bail out so many things, and we keep doing it to give people a chance. My apologies for clearing my throat like that. British Steel, at this point, I'm inclined to believe that the money, if we bailed them out or tried to bail them out, wouldn't go to keeping those jobs going. It would instead go to shareholders. Because that is the first priority of that company, isn't it? To pay the shareholders their dividends.
Mr. Speaker, there has been another sector that has been failed by the government is that of the renewables industry.
Oh, this one. Oh, excuse me. This is not... He's about to go down a path of... He's only got one valid point, and it's not really so much about renewables.
Solar installations are down by 94%. Onshore wind coming to a grinding halt. And they failed to back the very important, very exciting and innovative Swansea Bay Tidal Lagoon. They're failing on cars, on steel and on renewables. I know the Tory leadership candidates have been falling over themselves to confess to their past indulgences. But can the Prime Minister name an industry that is legal, that her government industry ministers have actually backed?
This is a really odd question. The sly dig at those who've admitted to taking cocaine, basically just Michael Gove, is utterly redundant. In fact, at this point, that was an absolute waste of a question. Oh, what do your MPs back? Like it fucking matters. In a few weeks' time, they're not going to be front benchers.
I say to the right honourable gentleman, he talks about solar power. Let's actually look at the facts. 99% of solar power deployed in the UK has been deployed under a Conservative government.
That is correct.
Last year, renewables generated a record amount of electricity.
Which we discussed on last week's PMQs. It is, in fact, true.
This is indeed a record that this government can be proud of. But while he's talking about renewables, I'm very surprised the right honourable gentleman hasn't taken the opportunity to stand up and thank this government for our announcement today that we are going to legislate for net zero on emissions by 2050.
Because he thinks he'll be in government still in 2050. Although at that point, he'll be dead. And I'll be in my... Oh, jeez, I'll be in my 70s. 60s? 60s. 65 years old. Jesus Christ.
Mr. Speaker, the legacy of her government is one of failure.
Well, that's debatable. I mean, there are areas they have failed. I won't deny that. But the renewable one, sadly, he doesn't have as much of a leg to stand on as he thinks.
They claimed they would tackle burning injustices. They failed. They told pensioners their benefits were safe. Now they're taking away the TV licenses for the over 75s. They promised action. They promised action on Grenfell. 2 years on, there is still flammable cladding on thousands of homes across the...
How is that relevant to renewable energies? Seriously. Serene, you are right. It would cost $1 trillion. It is very expensive. Renewables are remarkably energy inefficient as well. Solar power, especially to make it, is astonishingly bad for the environment. And hello, Kenzie. I think... okay, so the cladding thing, we should address that. It is down to the councils to have that stuff dealt with. It is down to the local councils to have the cladding evaluated and checked. Yes, there have been fires since, and yes, people have been hurt. Yeah, and I'm shocked to see Thornbury there as well. Hello, Director Greyhound. I think personally that it's not the government's job to deal with that. It is to legislate against certain claddings. I certainly agree with that. Hello, Lorna. Oh, no, Lorna. Not solar isn't bad for the environment. To make the solar cell is bad for the environment. Because of the chemicals required to go into it. That is quite well known. It's not they're bad for the environment, it's the... I should have been clearer, my apologies. Hello, Echo. With all the coastlines, I figured you could be hip deep in tidal flow generators. You'd think that, but actually where I live, if you look far enough out towards Ramsgate from Sandown, you can see a wind farm, but it's very far away. I'm all in favour of wind being used and tidal perhaps, but tidal is still, I don't know, I'm still kind of sceptical on it being beneficial on a grander scale. And UK Skin, the electric cars, there's a huge issue with those in that we don't have as much lithium as people think. Let's turn that off. There we go.
This country. They promised a northern powerhouse. They failed to deliver it.
That's a work in progress. Hello, have we left yet? Wind farms pay for themselves within a century or two. Waste panels are then, after they are spent, aren't good for the environment either, nor is the mining in shitpoor countries where we get the materials from. Yeah. I'm not overly keen on lithium mines either.
And every northern newspaper is campaigning for this government to power up the north.
Yeah, because the further north you go, the less conservative they are.
They promised net zero by 2050.
It still can be done, you know. Just saying, that is still a goal that could be done. And I do apologise, by the way, for all the interruptions I'm doing on him. But he's making a lot of stupid comments. The only legitimate point he now has... is coming up with the net emissions. And even then, it's still really small and still can be met.
Yet they failed on renewables and are missing
Order! The right honourable gentleman won't be shouted down. It isn't going to happen. Don't waste your breath. It's not productive and it's terribly boring. Jeremy Corbyn!
Mr. Speaker, they promised net zero by 2050, yet they failed on renewables and are missing their climate change targets.
They are missing the current goal by 6% of the goal they had set. So they're 94% on the way towards the goal they had for this next period, which is to 2025, I think. And they're currently 6% off. That's not... It's off of the goal, which I think is 32% of net emissions. That's not... But it's not 6% of that. It's 6% of the goal to get to that, which I think was an additional 7%. So they're 6% off of a 7% reduction. How is that a thing? It's a legitimate point, I'll agree, but it's not as concrete as he thinks it is.
They promised an industrial strategy. Output is falling.
We've already discussed that. It's a broad generalised term on manufacturing. But, yeah, no.
So which does the Prime Minister see as the biggest industrial failure of a government? The car industry, the steel industry, or the renewables industry? Which is it?
The problem with what he's now just done is his only argument on the cars is that there are people losing their jobs because less cars are being made. Okay. That's not much of a point. Manufacturing has changed. We know this. Cough, cough. The robots are taking over. With steel industry, British Steel, it went into administration. The government isn't meant to micromanage all the companies in this country. They made their own mistakes and they fucked up. And renewables, we are making great inroads. Yes, we are not building as much as we could be building, but I think our priorities have shifted a little bit at the moment. And we are still currently building things anyway. The tidal thing is quite a fascinating one, though. I remember when I was a teenager and people were discussing that as a source, and it was deemed to be it wasn't deemed to be cost effective. But that was 2002. 17 years have gone. If things have changed, then it's certainly something we should definitely consider.
Can I just say to the right honourable gentleman, he can pose for his YouTube clip as much as he likes.
Should I play that clip? I think I should. Do I have it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? YouTube clip. Where is it? I've got it. I know I have it. Where's that clip? No. I haven't got it, have I? Record levels of employment. No, that was Dispatchbot. Soapbox, fact bombing, harmful. Let me just quickly go to YouTube. Because I know there was a video, and okay, cocaine use submission. Okay, we can certainly address that in a second. Screw it. We'll get to this in a moment. There is a clip of the oh, we'll get to it. It's fine. We'll get to it in a moment.
But let's actually look at what this government has delivered. What we have delivered is a racial disparity audit that deals with the inappropriate inequality of public services for people from different communities. Record investment in transport infrastructure in the north. A record employment rate. Lowest unemployment for 45 years. Wages growing faster than inflation. A record cash boost for the NHS. Better mental health support. More homes being built. Stamp duty cut. Higher standards in our schools. And leading the world on climate change. That's a record of Conservatives in government that we are proud of, and we will never let him destroy it.
Rachel
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I congratulate the Prime Minister on introducing legislation for net zero?
Right, we're going to put the paper fiddler on the screen instead because I can't be bothered with whatever it was she asked. I will try and find the clip of Corbyn. It's one of these really silly little videos he did where you could tell he was posing this whole thing out. It was a stupid video as well, and I had seen it. Oh, I know where it'll be. It'll be on his Twitter, won't it? Show me Jeremy Corbyn's Twitter. Jeremy Corbyn, where are you? Jeremy Corbyn, MP, and that's a parody account of him. Him sat with Mao, that's funny. Give me the real Jeremy Corbyn. Oh, there you are. The verified account. No, that's Keir Starmer. Legacy of Theresa May. Where are you? UK want to scrap SATs. Okay, there's lots of videos. I can't be bothered with them. No, we're not doing this. That's far too much aggro. Let's just talk to the paper fiddler.
We mark the 90th birthday of what would have been Anne Frank's birthday today. Of course, a young woman who got her diary for her 13th birthday. We should never forget the trials and the tribulations of those that paid the utmost price under the genocide and the genocides which have followed since then. Mr. Speaker, an attack on women's rights, tax breaks for the rich, paid for by raising national insurance in Scotland, closing down Parliament in order to...
Hang on. Raising of national insurance. I wonder who's to blame for that.
to ensure that a catastrophic no-deal Brexit can be imposed. Does the Prime Minister think that any of these policies are respectable, never mind acceptable?
Okay, firstly, the raising of the national insurance. Everyone's had the national insurance raised, okay? Okay, that's a fact. But Scotland isn't as innocent in all this as they think, since they've had to raise tax so much to fund some of the little pet projects to the point where people are leaving their country because they can't afford to live, or because they're getting better pay and having to pay less tax in a different country. You know, the rest of the UK. And wasn't that guy James E. on Ramsay Nesbitt? Yes, he was.
I say to the right honourable gentleman, the time will come when he will be able to ask my successor questions at this dispatch box. But he raises the issue of people paying in Scotland. I have to remind him there's only one party in Scotland that has a policy to ensure that people in Scotland pay more tax, and that's the Scottish Nationalists.
To put Scotland's interests first, what we must do is tax Scotland to the point where they'll feel unwelcome in their own country. What we'll then do is guilt them into taking in more and more refugees, but not dealing with the, and I'll call it this because it's accurate, the burning injustice of over 5,000 children in their country that don't have a home. You, the Scottish nationalists, would rather play virtue signallers and pretend than look after your own. You are reckless with money, and your track record is looking good with the NHS, I'll give you that. But to pay for it, you've had to fleece your people. Cost of living and living standards are quite low in Scotland, for the most part. So tell me, how are you a nationalist party that's in it for your people when you have done nothing but let them down?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You would have thought after the time that the Prime Minister spent at the dispatch box, she would realise she's supposed to at least try and answer the question.
She did.
The state of politics in this place.
You can see he's fiddling that paper good, can't you? Can you all tell? I mean, seriously, his hand is bouncing up and down, up and down. He's really giving that paper a good seeing too.
Is humiliating. The Tory leadership race is a total horror show. The EU was clear. Use the time wisely.
And the first thing they did, they went on holiday.
And yet the Tories are obsessing with themselves at the expense of people across these islands.
No, they're not. They're electing a new leader, and this is pissing all of you off. I think it's having the desired effect.
Just when we thought that things couldn't get any worse, they're even lurching further to the extremes. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister once described her party as the nasty party. Well, with candidates like the one announcing today, it is about to get a whole lot nastier. Does the Prime Minister agree?
I don't know if that's a shot at Boris Johnson or Sajid Javid. I'd assume Boris, because I don't think he'd want to be caught insulting somebody of a different race.
That the fantasy fairy stories of the Tory party's candidates are nothing more than an assault on our common sense. And tonight, will she vote to stop any no-deal madness?
We're not going to address the no-deal madness stuff until I put a video out on this channel tomorrow on it. I've written like 2 pages of notes in my book behind me. It should be interesting, because the result was hilarious. How she votes in this obviously would be in line with the government. No deal should not be taken off the table. Anyone with an IQ over 1 would say that, which means the majority of the people in that room do not have an IQ over 1. I know what you're thinking, everyone. Imagine my shock. But that is simply the case in point. I will quickly go to Corbyn's Twitter and I will pull up. I'll find the more recent Jeremy Corbyn interview. YouTube video. Oh, hang on, he has a YouTube channel. He has a YouTube channel, I know he does. Where's your channel? Show me. Come on. There we go, the official channel. Oh, dear God. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go here. Let's get rid of the paper fiddler. This is Jeremy Corbyn's official YouTube channel. He's official as well. Actually is his. As you can see, he, like I, has a dead channel. And he is rolling in the viewers. So, yeah. Most recent one being the Peterborough by-election victory. Or our country's future. Let's do this one.
Theresa May is right to resign. She cannot govern, and nor can her divided and disintegrating party. Whoever the Tory party picks to succeed her will be unable and unwilling to tackle the burning injustices that are damaging people's lives. Not just because of Conservative Party's disastrous handling of Brexit.
Brush your teeth.
Not just because they've overseen nearly a decade of harsh
no, seriously, brush your teeth.
Counterproductive austerity.
If you can afford those expensive frames, you can fucking afford Colgate and a toothbrush.
But because they offer nothing to take on the real challenges facing the people of this country.
You mean the ones that were created by your own former government's colossal handling of the economy, where they just threw money at everything, and when it didn't stick, they threw more by taking out all those precious gilts. You know, those loans. To the point where our debt interest was over 10% or something stupid. I'm done with this. No, we're not doing this. I'm going to go and do other, more productive things with the rest of my evening. Thank you very much for joining me. I'll be back here tomorrow with Trups for a political recap. That should be interesting. I'm probably going to talk about the Tory leadership candidates and their current little campaign. Yeah, so thank you, Tiger Lily, for the donation. I really appreciate it. Nearly 20% of the way, or 18.5% of the way towards going to America. So thank you all for joining, and have a lovely, lovely evening.